Hey, what's up YouTube? Welcome to this new episode of EU4 on YouTube. This is the 1.28.3 patch, the Spain patch again. And this is a France run. France World Conquest-ish. I'm not going to finish it, but there's plenty of time to finish it. I'll explain why, because you can see that Ming is not even touched and there's 40 years left, but I can tell you that this in the endgame takes about 20 years. Then the rest of the 20 years would be enough to deal with the few things left here, and then Portugal is one war. So Portugal you'd get this in Australia for free. But Portugal is the reason I'm not going to finish it, because I'm not bothered. I already have the achievement for World Conquest, so I'm not exactly in a rush to get it. And Portugal being all over the place, and they have forts like on every other province, I'm just not bothered. But you could have this save file and finish a World Conquest if you wanted. I'm not gonna give this a file. Do your own run. Just to go a bit closer and show that there are things that are mine that are not evident. These three guys here, my client states, and Assam is my subject. And then here we have all the minor Aztecs here. These should be my subject. It's just that I'll explain how it happened, but it's when I fully annex Spain and Iran to those guys. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So we'll go through the time-lapse as usual, and then after that I'll go through the national ideas. During the time-lapse, we're going to go through a few things that happened. So this was a diplomatic run. Another reason why we're close to the World Conquest is because I wasn't actually planning to make a World Conquest in the start. But things went so crazy that I figured, hey, I could do it. But anyway. So let's start with France, obviously. So first thing, for those who don't know, my France starts. Don't wait for the surrender of main event with England so that England attacks you. Yes, it would be an easier war, but if you do it correctly, you can have an easy war by attacking England yourself, and you have reconquest on them. To a good advantage of doing the reconquest on the 11th of December rather than waiting for him to attack you. First, you're starting earlier, so you're going to save a few years. But second, it's a reconquest, so you're not going to get as much aggressive expansion, which will let you push into Brittany and Provence right after. If you wait on the surrender of Maine, because it's defensive, your aggressive expansion will be the equivalent of a conquest, which means, well, first you're going to pay Diplo points, and second, it's going to be basically all you can do for a little while. Right? So for Provence, you start allied to him. How you handle Provence, you keep him allied, but you don't call him against England. And during the war, you're going to warn Savoy, Brittany, and the Pope. Preferably ally the Pope for this, because otherwise he might just excommunicate you. But yeah, you warn all three of them, because they are the three neighboring him, except Burgundy. Burgundy, you can't warn him. He's too big, but it doesn't matter because Burgundy can only take Bar. So, and you don't want Bar this early. So, as soon as you have all three warnings set up, if you didn't call him in, you can break the alliance like 6 months into the war, so that when you finish the war with England, you're ready to go to Provence. If there's still a few years on the truce, you can go to Brittany in the meanwhile. Right. Also for Provence and Brittany, once you take all these 5 provinces and all your cores basically, you'll get claims, permanent claims through missions on those two. So we'll go here. So this war is usually easy-ish, because for England will always have Portugal, and then usually they'll ally 2 of these people in an attempt to Diplo-vassalize them. So the way you do it is you set up your armies, 2 armies of 19 here. You'll have 1 army with a 3 siege general you start with that goes to the board. The other one will stay here. Now England will either try and you go for the conquest of Maine specifically, because Maine can be sieged without a fort taking it back, because there's no fort protecting it. England will either try to land here, or land in Castile. The best is if he lands here, because then you can just move your troops in before he lands, and then you get him with a landing penalty. Usually it wipes him, and very often he decides to land without his general. That's just AI. If he lands up here, this is good too, because it gives you time. You have a better general for sieging, so unless you have very bad RNG, he's going to try to siege Caen. You have a fort there. So you leave him there, you siege the board. The point is, if he lands in Castile, that's the worst, because then he's going to unite his troops with Portugal and might just try to engage you here. That's going to cost you a lot of manpower. But the point is to get Labor. Forgot to say at the start, I like steel. The main reason is to get a great power on your side, but also, well, you might get a chance for a personal union, but the main thing is that he's not gonna get Vigorous Expansion on you, and that's the main thing. You might, what I did in this run is I like steel day one, I like Savoy day one, break the guarantee on Scotland, always do that, it's pointless, and also you want that truce to be over for the strategy we're going to use, and then start improving relations with Poland. If you're fast enough on this, you might be able to marry them and then ally them, and the reason again is to get all the great powers around the HRE on your side so they don't get Vigorous Expansion when you expand. So let's go, we got our cores, and then we'll go straight to Brittany, and then probably Provence. If your Vigorous Expansion, this is like 75 Vigorous Expansion-ish, so if that plus the Vigorous Expansion you get from your cores is too much, you can go to Burgundy. Burgundy, and you're gonna fight him a lot, but you're not gonna take any land ever, and the reason is you want the Burgundy inheritance to happen. So if it doesn't happen, you can just break these guys out so that it doesn't strengthen whoever's going to get the other side of the inheritance. Yeah, that's what I do usually. NO2, you can release it, is Burgundy, but this is land that you're not going to get for the inheritance. So release as much so that whoever gets the other side is not going to be super strong. And yeah, so I'm not sure what we're doing here. Leinster is our vassal here, so what you do is once Normandy is done, you'll have the range to Diplo-Vassalize one of these guys. Usually I do Leinster, but Leinster might be one that you want to Diplo-Vassalize, one that England is trying to Diplo-Vassalize. If you're fast enough, that's going to weaken him, slow him down, because you're going to take, well, he's going to have wasted his time. But you also want to make sure that it's one that has claims, because then you're going to use those claims once he's your Diplo-Vassal to, well, feed him everything else in Ireland. And the point here is, well, this was a bit weird, but generally speaking, Scotland will not be touched yet. If Scotland is not touched, he's going to probably ally one of them. So keep an eye on who Scotland is allying, eat everything else, and then eventually what you're going to do is attack once Scotland truce is over with you for breaking the guarantee. Attack whoever Scotland has allied, or attack Scotland directly, depending on where what's easier for the alliance web. And the idea is to call Scotland's a co-belligerent if he's not the one that you attack. And the point is to get the landing here. This is what I call the landing, because then you're gonna have a border on England, so you can just throw your troops here the next time you attack England. Now, this is not, it didn't happen in this run. What happened is while I fought England, Scotland decided to attack themselves, and because of that, then Denmark attacked and fed this to Norway. Then Norway lost it to rebels, spawning Gaeldom. So I Diplo-Vassalized Gaeldom instead when I reached here, and then used Gaeldom's reconquest on Scotland. So we ended up like this. And now we attacked England, so yeah. Now, I'm gonna annex him, because I don't have, he wasn't claiming this. These are allied to England, so we're going to do this like this. And yeah, now something that might not show here. We're going to steal Norway, and the way you steal Norway is first in the game, in the early game, you'll want to push Paris to 30 development for the age modifier. And the point is you want your first age action as fast as possible. You're going to take the half-cost subject. That half-cost subject thing will let you take Norway from Denmark as a subject, so we have Norway as a vassal. The point here too is that Norway will also give you, will count as if you were here 4 turns of distance. Went ahead a bit too much here, but Novgorod was ended up having only Kola and Karelia, because Kola is bordering Norway and Norway is us. Then we were able to Diplo-Vassalize him, and then we reconquered everything from Norway. So it's 1494, just to recap, it's 1494. We have almost everything in France except the Burgundian inheritance, which is not going to happen. We have all of Ireland, we have Gaeldom here, we have Norway as a subject, we have Novgorod as our subject. So let's keep going. Now England, if you want to do England and not get a massive aggressive expansion for no reason, just release Wales and Northern Burnland. Wales will be vassalizable because you border here. In this setup, if you got this with the usual way to do Scotland, you'll be able to Diplo vassalize Northumberland, but we were not able to because we didn't have this, and then we had a distance penalty. But eventually we'll be big enough that we'll be able to Diplo vassalize them. So again, you see the pattern here: Diplo vassalize, Diplo vassalize, Diplo vassalize. The reason is France starts with 1 dip rep, and then their first idea is 1 dip slot. So as you've seen the idea sets, after our first three idea sets, we'll end up having 8 Diplo slots, and everything's going to be a vassal. At the start we'll have Castile, but eventually we'll break from them. So again, Diplo vassalize here, Diplo vassalize everywhere. And then you'll see soon enough that Lithuania is going to blow up. And you get the idea what's going to happen. We're going to attack Sweden while they are declaring independence from Denmark. Just to push here, the key province here you want is Dalaskogan. Because it's a massive, it's basically a gold mine without inflation. We finish Novgorod here. And yeah, Lithuania blew up. And as you can see, Smolensk is going to be a vassal, Chernigov is going to be a vassal, Kiev is going to be a vassal. We're going to feed Zaporozhye to Kiev. Yeah, so at this point, Smolensk, Chernigov, Kiev, Novgorod, Norway, Wales, Northumberland are our vassals. We're like 2 slots over the limit right now, but it's fine. We're going to start annexing people. We're going to eat a bit here just to connect everything. So the idea here is to reach 1680 with a connection to our capital, so that we can, because to create client states, 1680 is roughly the time you would get client states at Tech 23. But to create client states, you need the province to be connected to your capital. So we'll need a connection to the capital. So we annex Wales. We're annexing the small ones just to get under the limit to not pay Diplo for the slots. So we're going to annex Smolensk here. Eventually we'll get Norway out of the way. Northumberland got the next. So here, when we attacked Spain the first time, we released Leon expecting to be able to vassalize him, but for some reason that was 40 distance. That's kind of bullshit, but whatever. What can you do? The thing is, Portugal's going to eat it right away. Because since we can't diplo-vassalize it, I'm not going to use a slot on that. So it's just going to eat it, which is going to give us range on Portugal anyways. Oh yeah, Livonian Order was our subject too. We diplo-vassalized him and then reconquered for him. So we just ate him. We just annexed him. So here the idea was to make England only have 2 provinces. Usually, and this was a weird thing that happened and slowed me down a bit. So the idea was to leave him 2 provinces so that his capital would leave back in England, and then because there's 2 provinces, he wouldn't want to move, and he couldn't because everything else would be in the New World and colonial nations. For some reason, when his capital was here, when he took his capital here, I wanted to landlock him too, so he had to stop colonizing. But for some reason, his capital ended up in the Caribbean instead of here. So I have no idea about that, but yeah, that happened. So because of that, then no colonial nation in the New World, and then he just spread cancer out there. We'll eventually full next him, but it's going to take a while. So I think Norway is going to go soon. Yeah, we're just expanding at this point. We'll eventually have the Great Horde as well, and Nogai, and Sibir, and Crimea as our subjects. Okay, we just took Novgorod out. So as you can see, it's not even 1600. So that's pre-absolutism. And we've got Russia, plus Scandinavia mostly. And yeah, we'll diplo-vassalize Great Horde here, and then we'll reconquest Kazan for him. Now, one big thing about 1600, with France as the current state, they're going to change that in the next update next year, but as we speak, France needs some RNG for the start of absolutism. So you have a decision as France, which is l'état c'est moi, which First, it doesn't even say everything it does, but the decision will tell you that it gives you a permanent 0.5 yearly prestige and 0.5 absolutism prestige, 0.5 absolutism yearly for the rest of the game. Now, the prestige is pointless. It's fine, but you don't do it for that. The 0.5 absolutism will be interesting in the Age of Revolution because it's one of the few nations that has absolutism tick in the Age of Revolution when the Age of Absolutism ends. And the advantage of that is that sometimes you'll be able to increase autonomy or do a few things and without having to pay points by like getting legitimacy or harsh treatment to get it back. It's just gonna tick on its own. But the big thing is to do that decision, you need 100 gold of monthly income. That's easy to get. But the big thing is you need your ruler to have 5 admin. That's complete RNG. We had bad RNG on rulers in the early game. We like expelled like 5 or 6 hairs in like 50 years, but then I finally got a 654. And she's ruling right now. She's the queen. So yeah, we got the thing, and that's a huge decision because of besides the yearly bonuses that you get for the rest of the game. When you click it, you get also 10 absolutism. So 1610 hits. Age of Absolutism starts, you already have 10 absolutism. And then if you didn't take economic, so one big thing for this kind of playstyle, don't take economic ideas because economic ideas gives you autonomy reduction. If you do that, then by the time you get 1610, you're not going to have any autonomy to reduce. Autonomy reduction, manually reducing autonomy is absolutism. So by 1610, because of the 10 absolutism we get plus all the honor, like because we just did Norway and Russia, that was timed for that, we ended up having 50 absolutism by 1610 before even unpause, which will help our expansion even more. Also, it makes annexations cheaper. So all of this is our subjects right now. Crimea, Nogai, Sibir, all this, that's where our subjects are pretty much. Leon is a subject at this point. Yeah, I'll just go like this because right now we're going to start pushing on when we beat up Austria is the first one we're going to go for. We're going to start, like, it's going to take about 40 years and the HR is going to be gone. Not much else to say at this point. We're going to start pushing, annexing our subjects slowly. We didn't participate in the League War. There we go. Austria's going. Now you're going to see probably Saxony in one shot. Oh yeah, Silesia. Poland is our subject too. Saxony goes into one war. At this point there's no more coalitions, so it's just a question of points. And France has an easy time for 4 points because they have 10% tech cost reduction in their national ideas. And then for the setup you're going to take admin and Diplo anyways, which is another 10%. So if it's on time, if I'm not taking the tech ahead of time, my admin and Diplo was costing me 300. Which saves you a lot of points for coring and all that. So Prague is our client state at this point. We're just finishing up here. We kicked out the Ottomans a big chunk already. These are client states as well. So at this point, all this is our subjects. West Africa is done too. And now right now I'm thinking world conquest, so we're just pushing, creating client states left and right. Okay, the colonial nations are blue right now, but they're not mine. As long as Spain is alive, this is Spanish. Just colonial nations don't change color in the time lapse. But this is all Spanish. But we'll soon go kill this. And the problem with Portugal, Spain, as I explained in the early game, Spain was a personal union under Portugal. So I couldn't kill both at the same time. It was too much war score. So I decided to do Spain first because they owned a lot. Also, I didn't want Portugal to annex them and then Portugal being way too big to do in one war. So we have a bunch of client states here when we killed jumper. But eventually you'll see soon, I think. It was pretty much after. So what happened here is these guys, there's one problem in having 8 or 9 Diplo slots for the vassals, is you vassalize, you annex so fast that you end up having your subject, if you don't do them in the proper order, so the oldest vassal you have in order, you'll end up having vassals that have so much penalties for annexing vassals because you do it too fast that it's never going to be, it's going to be impossible to bring them back to 190. So these I just attacked and ate myself. So now we just ate Spain. So all this is actually mine now. And yeah, we're getting close to where we were. Here we go. So what's left is 2 wars on the Ottomans, about 3 wars on Ming, well more 4 because we'll have to do it through these guys. This is 1 war because it's all allied together. Baumanis is allied to Ming, so the idea was the first war on Ming with co-belligerent Baumanis. And Portugal is 1 war, but that would be like a 15 years war because they are everywhere. The problem is when I siege something, then they come back. I'd have to build like 1,000 strong fleet, which I could, but again, I wasn't bothered. So that's the time lapse, guys. And now for the ideas. Again, I kind of told you what the idea is going to be. But here we go. So we went, the opener is Humanist Offensive Influence. A lot of people ask me why Humanist first. Because it's France. And France has war of religions. That can't happen anymore, but it can happen in the Age of Reformation. This is a like 10 times worse version of the religious turmoil disaster. First, religious turmoil is harder to happen, and second, it's like you just accept the heretics during the disaster and it's fine. This is worse, like you have rebels all over the place every 5 minutes. The easiest way to stop it is to have humanist ideas. As you can see, first it's going to give you unity, but anyways, having humanist ideas makes it impossible to spawn. On top of it, humanist with offensive and influence will give you the policies that are required to do what I wanted to do. So you have, I don't have them yet anymore because I kind of stopped. There's nothing left to vassalize. Oh yeah, okay. Foreign Aid Act and Diplomatic Defense. Foreign Aid Act is humanist influence. And there's one with offensive that I'm not using anymore, foreign conscription, which is influence offensive. So we do humanist offensive influence. Humanist offensive also has Liberation Act, which is, in my opinion, the strongest policy in the game on top of humanist because it requires humanist. So this with humanist, you never have any rebels whatsoever. Also idea cost reduction. So anyway, so yeah, this is the start. That's basically it for that. Also this, since we're going to have 8 subjects, we're going to have massive force limit while we have our subjects. Then we take admin, obviously, because, well, at this point, because I was so big already so fast, I'm like, okay, let's do our conquest, we'll take admin. Then we take defensive, because it's defensive. I take usually the defensive for attrition. You have this one, and then you have the Preparation Act with humanists. So you never have any attrition. There was something else with defensive that I dropped by now. I think that's it. As for this, also it's France defensive, so like we'll wipe armies just because of morale. Then diplomatic ideas for the province cost reduction, but it's also opening a new slot here. Quantity at this point was just to make sure, guarantee that we're not getting any coalition anymore, because at this point I had the Ottomans in Ming and Baumanis permanently in coalition space. So by having quantity, then we have a force limit so big that nobody's going to even bother. I'm talking about the Ottomans being actual the Ottomans, not this leftover. And then economic last, it's there just because taking an idea group, but it's pointless. It's not there really for strategy or anything. I just clicked something and went ahead with it. So yeah, that's pretty much it. The key is the opener, always the opener. Reconquest here, get Brittany-Provence. Meanwhile, Diplo-vassalize one of the Irish. Use that to use their claims to unite all of Ireland that is not a subject or an ally of England. find whoever Scotland's going to ally, attack that, get the landing here, use that to go against England, eat whatever's left of Ireland while they are allied to England, and England release Northumberland and Wales, vassalize them. But by that time, if you pushed Paris to 30 dev, you'll have the first action. You use that to you have a claim here, or Scotland's going to have a claim on Orkney, so you'll be able to attack Denmark through Norway, steal Norway. If you can, maybe take a few provinces from Sweden as well, so that Sweden is under 100%, so that next time you attack Denmark, if you're on time, I didn't do it, but if you do it like that, if you're on time, you'll be able to even steal Sweden. And then from here, keep an eye on Novgorod. Novgorod will usually end up having 1 or 2 provinces left, in which case, if you have Norway, you can diplo-vassalize them. It's tricky though, because the AI is pretty random. If they leave it here, you're not going to be able to, but if you're lucky and they push it here and leave it here, then you're fine. Then use that to reconquest Russia, and then from there, you do whatever you want. You might not get the lucky explosion of Lithuania, but if that doesn't happen, you'll have other options. Eventually, you'll be big enough, especially when you become an actual empire, you'll be able to even diplo-vassalize princes. Especially a French one like Liege or Lorraine and all that. That's going to be it, guys. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe as well as like the video. Leave me a comment if you want to see another run. Right now we're doing a Hungary one in which we got 3 personal unions. Big personal unions, like great power personal unions. So up on Twitch if you want to see that. I'm going to be live when this comes out. We're live on Twitch 12 hours a day, roughly speaking. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe again. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.